All right, let's talk about the spring game. We basically went over 5 different questions that we had for the spring game in hopes to see, hopefully our teams get a little bit better. Mm-hmm. My 5 questions didn't all completely get answered because Devin Brown didn't even play. And so I was hoping to kind of see.
Number 33.
Yeah, that's a wild number, too.
This is a wild ass.
That is a wild number.
Is that wilder than the Devin Gardner 98? Last dude that wore 98 won a Heisman. So, before Devin Gardner won a Heisman, it was Tom Herman.
Yeah,
Tom Harmon.
Not as wild because 33 is like a fullback number.
Fam, it's like fullback, linebacker. That's Laurinaitis. You got Laurinaitis out there playing quarterback.
Yep. But it's not defensive linemen.
I mean, is one better than the other? Is linebacker better than defensive lineman when we're talking about quarterback?
Not necessarily.
I don't think it is either.
It is what it is. Anyway, so my first question was, how is Kyle McCord looking and how is Devin Brown looking? Like I said, Devin Brown didn't play. Instead, we got Jebbia, which I don't think he's going to see.
Who the fuck is that guy? Did none of the quarterbacks from last recruiting cycle enroll early? Klein Holtz didn't?
Well, they had, no, King Holtz, I don't think he did early. They had Mason Maggs out there at the very end, which I think he's a sophomore, if I'm not mistaken. But Jebbia he transferred over from Oklahoma State. The main focus should be Kyle McCord in this case, which he didn't look overly impressive. He definitely had a better game against Akron for what it's worth. But I think that he at least showed that he can make some accurate throws. I think some of the things that were plaguing him, which we'll talk about a little bit later, is the offensive line play, which looked pretty fucking shoddy, if I got to be honest. I was actually listening to it. I was watching it. I was supposed to go, but didn't get a chance to go. And I'm watching it. I'm listening to DeVere Posey fucking talk during the spring game. And he's essentially saying that, since we have so many different playmakers on the outside, running backs and stuff like that, that the guy that we do get to be the starting quarterback essentially has to be a game manager. And I'm like,
is that the language coming out of Columbus?
No, that's
playing game managed quarterback.
That's the language coming from DeVere Posey and DeVere Posey only.
Love to hear that.
And even he didn't necessarily mean it that way.
Oh, he didn't mean it.
I fucking hope he didn't mean it that way. No, the way I took it is that, you're looking for somebody who not only doesn't turn the ball over like a game manager does, but you're looking for a guy who hopefully makes the rest of his team around him better and puts them in the best position to be there. So I wouldn't say fucking game manager.
Yeah, game manager is a wild term. To a certain degree, you need to be confident that the second half of your team, the one that stops the other offense from scoring, can do that at a very high and effective rate. Now, if that ends up being the case for Ohio State, then a game manager should be fine with the offensive talent that you guys got. If not, and we are, the offensive line ends up being an issue as well, so we can't really control clock.
Yeah.
Game manager ain't where you want to be, dog. That's a recipe for getting blown out.
I'll tell you what I would want out of the quarterback, whoever ends up winning it between Kyle McCord or Devin Brown. The thing that I would want most is, yes, hopefully you are making the playmakers around you better and you're putting them in the best position to make said plays. So, I saw a couple of plays that were made by essentially some of the receivers, getting it to Marvin Harrison, but getting it out of the reach of the DBs, throwing it to Jaden Ballard on an amazing one-hand catch before he went out of bounds. So things like that. You got to make extremely accurate passes if you're going to be in the pocket. Now, obviously, the offensive line is going to play a part in that because they're going to want to make sure that you're not getting hit while you're trying to make these throws. But that's what I want to see out of my quarterback. That, plus, obviously, at some level, I guess, making sure that you're not turning the ball over, things of that nature. I don't know that extending the play is going to be a huge part in it, which Devin Brown can do, I guess, better than Kyle McCord can, but I guess that's not a necessity unless the offensive line isn't looking that good. Mm-hmm. But, if I can get somebody who's making efficient passes out there and getting the guys where they need to be, then that's what I want.
So the reason why it was hard for me to evaluate this game in particular is because it seemed like half of the offensive talent that they were using wasn't allowed to be touched. Obviously,
quarterbacks.
Obviously, the quarterbacks is what it is, right? You're not. It's not too often you see those guys live. Mayan Williams, like, are we running the ball where he can't be tackled? Like, what is?
Yeah, no, he couldn't.
So does that mean? All right, boom. Mayan is actually getting these yards, and it wouldn't have mattered whether or not they were trying to tackle him or not. It would have been at least that amount of gain, or is it? Let's ease up on Mayan in the spring game, so it looks as if he's bursting. So if we're having offensive, and when you say offensive line issues, I'm thinking probably pass protection, right?
A lot of it is pass protection.
Combined with the running back who's not really getting tackled full go, I don't think we know what that offensive line is going to look like right now.
We don't to some extent. And so I'm going to get into the offensive line here in a second, because I think that's my third.
It's kind of the same thing with Marv. If we're not hitting him, I'm probably not running coverage on him like I'm about to hit him either. I'm probably not lining myself to tee off on him if he's not getting hit.
DBs is also another one of my
so it's hard to judge. Was he really that open, or was it, well, I can't plaster him, so I'm off a little bit, let him catch the ball but still kind of be in position?
That's tough, because Denzel Burke definitely came and showed up.
Yeah,
and he was actually breaking up passes.
That first drive of y'all's spring game, Hicks and Burke looked like guys.
Hicks looked like a guy throughout the game.
Guys.
He deflected a couple of passes that were almost picks.
Well,
the first one being an almost one-handed grab out of the air. I'm like, sheesh.
Which, again, what am I looking at here? So is that McCord? We're looking at McCord like...
I need to see that play again, because I don't know if he was being pressured at that time.
Because it was back-to-back passes. The first one, the Hicks got knocked down. Then he comes back again and goes to whoever was running with Denzel Burke, and Denzel Burke almost picks it off.
That was Marvin Harrison, I think.
Oh, well, hey, look, man.
I think. Yeah, I would have to look at that play again, but yeah, no, I don't know if he was getting pressured or anything, which, like I said, the offensive line play kind of led to that, so... and then Kyle McCord did throw a ball, and Sonny Styles almost picked it off. And he basically threw in a double coverage, it was definitely a bad pass at that point.
I mean, look, I don't think that it's too far off to say that the Ohio State offense needs a plus thrower. You need a plus thrower or a plus athlete from the quarterback position. That it hasn't really been, at least under Ryan Day, the latter of those two. It's usually been a plus passer from the pocket that makes that offense go. They haven't really had like a standout athlete, be it at quarterback.
Oh, not under Ryan Day.
Not under Ryan Day.
Not under Ryan Day, no.
So I'm expecting Kyle McCord to be more of the same.
Justin Fields?
Sure. Okay. My bad. Well, for but for 1
most
year,
of it, it's obviously been C.J. Stroud.
Yeah. So they did have Justin Fields for what, a year. For a year. Justin Fields was a pretty good athlete.
Yeah, but to your point, C.J. Stroud was a plus passer.
Yeah,
he didn't get out of pocket too often.
And I think they need that. So
but I think they've got plus passer, plus athlete, and so that's kind of what we're looking at right now. And I don't know, because based off of what the offensive line play may look like in fall, maybe they need to give it to the plus athlete so he can scramble when need be, and then extend the play hopefully a little bit.
If y'all got 33 out there taking snaps, I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna just laugh every time I watch one of your games. I don't know what to expect
with that play, which maybe they'll go and try to get some guys out of the transfer portal, but it doesn't seem like there's
quarterback wise.
No. Like tackle wise.
Oh, offensive line.
Which I don't. So far, I don't see too many people. I think there's a guy from Wyoming, and then USC just had a guy.
Into the portal.
Yeah. So, and I mean, the USC guy, he's only entering the transfer portal because he lost his starting spot. So.
Yeah, and so that's the interesting thing with these portal dates opening up. It's like the first portal is almost like a fresher crop. Yeah. Because it's guys who preemptively know that they want to be off the rosters that they're on, and that they're looking for greener pastures. So there's a higher percentage of some plus players in there, some difference makers. Mm-hmm. When you get to the spring portal, the majority of those guys are the guys who've made the decision after the depth chart has had a chance to work itself out. Yeah. After you can see where you're at going into fall. So a lot of those are guys who have, unfortunately, lost jobs or lost ground in the depth chart and are looking to get better opportunities elsewhere. Yeah. So the first portal is much more effective in terms of bettering your roster and creating depth than the second portal run.
And then at that point, it's like, do you just stay with the guys and hope they develop into, by game time that they develop into the guys?
Well, I mean, so spring is really early. And so, you do have a nice long ramp up until fall camp. Mm-hmm. You'll have summer workouts and stuff like that. So, you got a long runway here. I would say, without being an offensive line expert, I would hope that the way that they're looking at it is, was there enough there to build on? If not, then maybe we got to start shuffling around and see who does have that, good enough base to try and see what's.
And that's the thing. I kind of look at it because it's just like, okay, from what I'm hearing about Igbinosun transferring in, apparently he put fear into some of the guys in the DB room because they're like, oh, well, I wonder if he's going to cut into some of my minutes. And so obviously that breeds guys coming in, hopefully motivated to show something. Mm-hmm. And you wonder if that's the case for the tackles. But then, if this guy just lost his starting spot at USC,
he's not going to be putting.
I don't know that he's going to threaten as much as Igbinosun just did for the DBs. Mm-hmm. So it's just one of those things where it's just like I'm almost tempted to just say, just go with the guys you have, develop them the best you can, and we'll try to move forward with this. But I don't know. The offensive line looked a little shaky. They were letting guys like Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry look like studs. Letting them get in, disrupt the flow of the offense. Kenyatta Jackson, I think, had a sack. Well, what would be a sack?
Would be a sack, right.
And so it's just like, those aren't even the
names
on the defensive line. So
not Jack or JT.
Yeah. And so I'm glad that those guys are getting maybe hopefully a little bit of confidence, but at the same time, I don't want it to be the expense of, our offensive tackles losing confidence. Mm-hmm. I think I just wrapped up pretty much 3 of my questions in all of that, for what it's worth. Obviously, how the quarterbacks looked, how the offensive line looked, and hopefully seeing somebody step up, which I didn't, at least on the tackles. And then defensive line, who was going to step up after JT and all of them, which, again, Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry did actually look decent. But, especially at a spring game, is that just them not looking so fresh on the offensive side? Or is that them actually coming in and making some plays to disrupt the flow?
Another thing you have to take into account with all of this is that we have a new play caller, right?
Yes.
Right? So,
so is some of his play calling a little shaky?
Very, very small sample size. Not enough for us to make a determination, but it is something to look at going forward. You're going to have a first-time play caller now in Brian Hartline, and he's going to probably have some growing pains. So
Absolutely.
That would be something to look at. I heard an interesting thought about your guys' receiver room development and recruiting with your former wide receivers coach under Urban Meyer, be that Zach Smith, who was akin to a lot of guys. Michael Thomas, you had Harris Campbell, you had Terry McLaurin, recruited Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. A lot of guys, right?
Yep.
And so I heard the assertion that Hartline has taken that to another level with this most recent crop of wide receivers. And I think about it, and I'm like, well, seeing as how some of the guys that you would give credit to Hartline on, be that Olave, Garrett Wilson, or Jackson Smith and Jigba, even them guys were recruited by your man.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
That's facts, and maybe we're looking at a situation where we're looking at a Steve Kerr from Mark Jackson.
It's like, so now it seems like we're splitting the hairs between initial eval and recruitment, getting the guy on campus, and what is being considered now development with Brian Hartline. So it's like, so where do you stand on that? Who are you giving more credit for the current state of the Ohio State wide receiver room, Zach Smith or Hartline?
It'll be a lot more clear coming from these next two crops of receivers. So the receivers, the second year receivers that we got, guys like Kyon Grays and Kojo Antwi, some of those guys, like it'll be clear with them, and then it'll be clear obviously with this next freshman group with Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, guys like that. So I think once you see those guys, and if they pan out to also be first round receivers, then I guess you could say, nah, Brian Hartline deserves all the credit that he's getting. If those guys start to kind of, teeter-totter or falter, then maybe we're looking at a different situation, and maybe Zach Smith actually grew those guys. But I think it's definitely a possibility, or a huge possibility that, Zach Smith was a guy, and then he handed the baton over to Hartline, and Hartline is now the guy.
Yeah, I would have to agree that we're gonna have to wait until we start getting some of these freshmen and sophomore wide receivers on the field. Your Jaden Ballards, your Brandon Ennis's, and seeing what kind of difference makers they are, and at what point they become difference makers in comparison to Olave and JSN and Garrett Wilson. Shit, Jameson Williams, guys that were on this roster prior to Brian Hartline, or who were at least either on this roster or recruited to be on this roster by the time that Brian Hartline got there.
Yeah, I got you.
So,
yeah, it'll be interesting, and like I said, this group of second year receivers, like I said, Kojo, Kyon Graves, is interesting, is because they don't get talked a lot. Because, obviously right now you've got your Marvin Harrison Jr., your Julian Fleming, Ibuka, and even Jaden Ballard, right? And then you've got this receiver group that nobody really talks about, who are our second-year receivers who came in. And then, obviously, everybody's talking about Carnell Tate, obviously, Brandon Ennis. And so and Noah Rogers, I think. So it's just interesting that you've got talent throughout all of it, but it seems that a couple of receivers have unfortunately gotten, forgotten amongst the crowd because the wide receiver room is just so crowded. But some of those guys were putting up some pretty big catches in the game as well on the other side for Jebbia. Since we're still on the offensive side, I do want to shout out the fact that the tight end room looks stacked as well. Cade Stover is obviously the guy. I'm interested to actually see what Joe Royer looks like, for the simple fact that if our tackles don't look so good, he seems to be the guy that everybody's touting up to be the guy who's really good at blocking for a tight end. And so I'm wondering if they put in some formations to get him to kind of seal off the edge and get some of our running backs to the outside, and hopefully we can make some plays with that if he's such the blocker that everybody says that he is. Mm-hmm. Then you got Royer, you've got G. Scott, who made a bonehead play in, I think it was the Michigan game, headbutting one of you guys. So I still got a bad taste in my mouth about that, but hopefully he can show up.
His dad is like a radio host or some shit like that.
I think so.
Okay, yeah. I think I seen him on Twitter, and I seen G. Scott Sr., and I was like, oh, this is G. Scott from Ohio State's dad. And I clicked on his profile, and I seen he had like 100,000 followers. I'm just like, yo, what in the hell?
Behind that, we've got Jelani Thurman, who he's a freshman,
former teammate
he's a sophomore, I think now. But what'd you say?
I said former teammate of Aaron Noland.
Yes. He's a sophomore, I should say. And when he gets some burn, that kid is going to be something, because he's already huge, and he made some plays in the spring game. He looked pretty good, but he's like the fourth guy. So when he gets, junior year, senior year, once all those other guys are gone, he might be a guy to look out for. Just throwing that out there. The running back room showed a little bit of depth in case fucking Trey gets injured, Mayan gets injured again. At least Dallin Hayden is showing that he can make some catches out of the backfield. They said he's gotten bigger,
I've seen
stronger.
A couple of them LBs getting ran through. It was not pretty.
Yeah,
not pretty. I don't know if Dallin Hayden is Derrick Henry, or if we just not coming to balance in the spring the way we should.
I think those were some of the twos at linebacker, but because I want to say it wasn't. I know it wasn't C.J. Hicks. It was I can't think of his name, but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I ran that joint back. I was
that was a little tough. But he wasn't. Obviously, Eichenberg and Steel Chambers didn't play, so those are the actual ones. And then it was Hicks and I'm about to have to look it up. I can't remember his name right now. I think he was the one that got. He let go of that tackle, and it was just like, bruh. Yeah, no, Chip broke off a nice little run, and that was a situation where it was just like, I don't know if this is just because maybe the twos are out there now. Or...
Yeah, it was a couple of them like that. Dallin Hayden had one like that. Mayan Williams had one like that early on. I'm just like, I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know if this is great for the offense or terrible for the defense.
That's just one of those things where you can't really chalk up what side is at fault. But I think Chip trained him. Honestly, he was going against some twos, and he just hit that second stride and just got out there, hit a little bit of explosiveness and got out there. Then, we got a touchdown run from this, I think, 6th-year senior. Guy goes by the name of Archie Griffin. Guy got out there and, he got himself a touchdown. He looked like a guy out there.
Losers.
Oh, get the fuck out of here. You're a fucking hater. So, yeah, I mean, it was there's some questions still on the offense.
As if Archie hasn't had his name honored enough in the halls of Ohio State. The athletic
two-time
center,
Heisman, baby.
Where they work out is the Archie Griffin Center.
That's right. It's my house.
As if he has not
Archie
been
Griffin.
honored enough.
Big 4-5.
Okay.
Still running touchdowns out here.
Well, he
won
running
it?
something. I don't know if that was a touchdown, but he running something.
That's crazy. You a fucking hater. So, yeah, I mean, that's all that I had on the offensive side. The biggest thing is, honestly, at this point, I don't know if the quarterback position battle matters as much as the offensive line getting their shit together.
Oh, it matters. When it's
it definitely
time to play
matters.
real football,
definitely matters.
it
Not saying
matters.
that it doesn't matter, but at the end of the day, you got all of the, the weapons on the outside. But if you can't get protected, I don't know that it's going to matter between the two, to be honest with you. As much. We need to get that shit straightened out. The offensive line needs to get straightened out immediately. Then I can go back to focusing on which guy.
Yeah.
DBs. Denzel Burke looked really good. I saw some play from Jermaine Matthews, incoming freshman. He looked actually pretty good as well. Sonny Styles broke up a play, like I told you before. I don't think Kyle McCord should have even thrown that ball, but he did, and Sonny Styles was there to make it. But Sonny Styles is also there to make some key tackles and whatnot. So I'm looking forward, like I said, to see what he's going to continue to do. Denzel Burke, I think Igbinosun actually led the defense in tackles, if I'm not mistaken. So the DBs actually, if it's going to be Igbinosun and Denzel Burke, I'm not mad at that. If one of the incoming guys, like I said, Jermaine Matthews or somebody works their way up the depth chart, I'm not mad at that either. Look, as long as we get play like we know of old State DBs and not what we saw last year, I'll be happy. If we're not getting fucking
burnt toast,
if we're not getting took over top by fucking Michigan,
burnt toast,
yeah, I'll be happy with that. But the DBs look like they came to play. Linebackers, obviously, there wasn't really, besides C.J. Hicks. C.J. Hicks looked good. I want to see more. I definitely want to see more. But other than that, that was kind of the big thing there, and I think we already talked about the D-line. So, all in all, man, it's a fucking spring game.
Yep.
I'm happy that I saw it because it got me to watch some football during the spring.
Yeah.
But there's still some questions. Even though some of my questions were actually answered from the video we did, I still have new questions. I still have questions that weren't completely answered. Jaden Ballard had some great catches, but I don't know if he's going to be the guy or Carnell Tate's going to be the guy after Marvin Harrison goes. And, there's still so many questions still left on the table, but, I'm excited to see what the guys bring in the fall.
So beyond the spring game, you guys have had some more news going on there, some more positive news, right?
Yeah, I think right after we made our
some more victims
video,
for the rivalry, some more Wolverine food.
Yikes! I think right after our last video, James Laurinaitis is out here recruiting. James Laurinaitis is out here getting us a linebacker.
I believe his name is Peyton Pierce.
Peyton Pierce. You thought he wasn't going to be on the recruiting trail. He is clearly.
I didn't think that you could deploy grad assistants. First of all, it's crazy that that's his designation anyway.
I would much rather have James Laurinaitis, the name, on the recruiting trail.
Absolutely. I mean, but I would also give him the weight of a position title. Yeah, he wouldn't be James Laurinaitis.
Well, I think that's how Hartline
the graduate assistant.
He was a grad assistant behind.
He's already been a grad assistant. He was a grad assistant at Notre Dame. First of all, why is this man a grad assistant?
He is that name that, like Mike Hart and
yeah.
You have
a lot of these kids' parents were teenagers while Mike Hart and Laurinaitis and AJ Hawk and Bobby Carpenter and all those guys, were duking it out. So
that's a guy that I definitely want on the recruiting trail. To make sure that some of our, some of our guys are secured, especially a linebacker.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. Anyways.
You better recognize.
On to the good guys who just secured another commitment from, I believe, what's crazy about Texas recruiting? Hold on, let me say his name. Andrew Sprague. Or not Andrew Sprague. We already talked about Andrew Sprague. Yeah. Ben Frazier was the last one. Legacy recruit. Dad played offensive line for Michigan a while back. What's crazy about
not Ben Frazier, Blake
Frazier about Texas recruiting? Do you know that this guy is rated higher at his position nationally than he is in his own state?
That's crazy.
He's I think he's like he's top 10 nationally, and I think he's like number 17 in the state of Texas. Yeah, man. It looks like both recruiting classes are holding strong within the top 5.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see, what pushes they can make. And
the better thing for me is that with our recent success having classes that were outside of the top 5, I feel like the people who have the most to gain from a recruiting cycle like this are the people who haven't previously had it like that. Mm-hmm. Top 10 is one thing. Top 5 is another realm.
Yeah.
So if we've done what we've done with previous recruiting classes of 12, 11, 9, 18, whatever.
You think you should be able to...
Shit.
Well, hopefully you can retain your top 4 status. Hopefully not. But I mean, for you guys, I'm sure hopefully that's the thought.
Prediction watches on Brady Prescorn. Always on Brian Robinson, Bennett Warren, not Amarion Walker. He's already on the roster. Amarion Stewart, still Aaron Childs. Yeah, man. I see it. I see it going down. I see it staying within that top 5. I really do. A lot of people projecting top 10 for sure. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's going to stay within the top 5. But yeah, man, I'm excited because I think this is going to be a very exciting college football season. The last college football season where there are only 4 playoff teams until we start college football winter madness, essentially.
Yeah.
I am very confident. I am more confident now than I have been in years. Very confident. Very, very confident. It's good to be the chased and not the chaser. It's good. Tastes good.
Oh, weren't you going to talk about the Penn State game too?
Oh, I mean, we didn't talk about it. I didn't see anything in there that really wowed me. Drew Lohr had a couple nice throws, but I didn't see anything in that game that made me think, oh man, now that's the guy who's going to beat Ohio State and Michigan to win the Big Ten championship. They're still light in the middle. Still incredibly light in the middle.
Did Katron Allen and Nick Singleton do anything?
I mean, they both played.
Yeah.
They both played.
Anything special?
They were okay.
Katron Allen started. So
then Singleton started for the other team.
He was with the ones. Okay.
Yeah, they both started. They both played.
Nick Singleton was the one. I don't know. I guess it really doesn't matter.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever,
And then I watched a part of Michigan State's spring game, And I was so bored by the fact that they were just fucking doing drills at first. Like, what is this? And so I just turned it off. I didn't even watch it.
Oh, man. There was a bunch of spring games. Quentin Ewers and Archie Manning duked it out in the Texas spring game.
They just announced that. I think Sark just announced that.
Yeah, no
Quinn
shit.
Quinn is the guy, which,
Oh, shit.
Yeah, give it to that guy.
The only reason why he's making an announcement is out of respect for the Mannings.
Yeah. Yep.
No one expected Archie Manning to beat out Quentin Ewers.
Yeah.
And if he did, we should have huge concern
about
for
Quentin
Quentin Ewers, but for what Sark is doing and how now Arch Manning is going to be developed.
Well, if Arch Manning was actually better,
it's hard to believe.
It is.
If you're telling me that you're the quarterback guru, you're the one that had the number one player in the country on your roster, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're him, then whoever you have playing quarterback for you should be better than the best high school player in the country.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree. You're right.
Should be. Give us your thoughts on everything we discussed here today. What did you think of your team's spring game this weekend? There was quite a few of them going on.
Nebraska had one too?
I don't know. Who cares about Nebraska? Give us your thoughts in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe. Come back next week for another House Divided episode.
Absolutely. And make sure that you check out our previous video on the recruiting show for both of our teams. And then obviously also make sure you check out the Michigan spring game recap that we did before. And make sure you subscribe. We like to talk about college football quite a bit. And every time we get any updates, which I guess the next one would be transfer portal / NFL draft.
Probably.
So, yeah, we'll let you know.